like we just had our lunch.
Very rough.
Hello and good day, everyone. This is Attorney Angel. First of all, I hope that you are staying safe and healthy. And I hope that you are not forgetting to pray to God so that God will guide you and assist you and make you strong physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually so that you will be able to cope well with whatever you are going through right now. All right. So we have come to the last part of the course on administrative law, law on public officers, and election law. This is the third and last part of that branch of law, which we will be discussing for our subject for our course, which is on the law on elections. Okay. As you know, we originally planned that there will be a resource speaker to discuss with you about the Commission on Elections and other related topics on COMELEC and the law on elections. However, the plan did not go well. So there were changes in the plans, and the COMELEC just sent us materials, but they did not provide a resource speaker. Okay, so I decided that I will be the one to discuss with you the materials that they sent us. So the materials consist of 74 slides. So I decided to divide them into 5 discussions or 5 lectures. And we will start with the first out of the 5 this week. And we will be discussing about the COMELEC powers and functions, composition, as well as the functions of the law department, including its function and preliminary investigation. But I know that you already reviewed on this because you thoroughly discussed this in your constitutional law. And I trust that you will be reading on your own for the topics covered as well as for the topics not covered by the discussion. So without further ado, let's start. Okay. So a brief backgrounder regarding election law. So on December 3, 1985, BP bilang 881 or Batas Pambansa bilang 881 was enacted into law. This is the Omnibus Election Code of the Philippines. Although it has undergone some amendments, amplifications, and revisions, it is still the fundamental or basic law which governs our elections in the Philippines. Okay? And as we are talking about elections, let us also discuss the definition of elections. Okay, so what is elections? Or how do you define elections? So in Hontiveros versus Altiveros, elections was defined, or the word elections was defined. In that case, it was held that, generally speaking, election is the embodiment of the popular will, the expression of the sovereign power of the people. It involves the choice or selection of candidates to public office by popular vote. It refers to the conduct of the polls. In common or ordinary parlance, it means the listing of votes, the holding of electoral campaign, the act of casting and receiving the ballots from the voters, counting them, making the election returns, and proclaiming the winning candidates. It involves every element necessary to the complete ascertainment of the expression of the popular will, embracing the entire range from the deposit of the ballot by the elector up to the final ascertainment and certification of the results. The word election must be so construed unless the law intended to use it in different sense. So very, very clear, even with the mechanical casting of the voting or the elections. I'm sure that you have experienced several elections already, and that as responsible citizens of our country, that you already exercise your right to vote. As they say, it is the greatest equalizer, because whether you are poor or rich, no matter what gender you come from or race, you only have one vote as the rest. Okay. And what is the purpose of the election? The purpose of the election is to enable the electorate to choose the men and women who would run their government, whether national, provincial, city, municipal, or barangay. Okay? It is to give the voters direct participation in the affairs of their government, either in determining who shall be their public officials or in deciding some questions of public interests. And for this purpose, all of the legal voters should be permitted, unhampered, and unmolested to cast their ballots. And this was held in the case of Luna versus Rodriguez. Okay. Also, in the case of Pangandaman versus COMELEC, the Supreme Court held that the purpose of the governing statutes on the conduct of elections is to protect the integrity of elections, to suppress all evils that may violate its purity and defeat the will of the voters. The purity of the elections is one of the most fundamental requisites of popular government. The Commission on Elections, by constitutional mandate, must do everything in its power to secure a fair and honest canvass of the votes in the elections. In the performance of its duties, the Commission must be given a considerable latitude in adopting means and methods that will ensure the accomplishment of the great objective for which it was created, to promote free, orderly, and honest elections. The choice of means taken by the COMELEC, unless they are clearly illegal or constitute grave abuse of discretion, should not be interfered with. Okay. I cannot overemphasize the importance of the elections and choosing the candidates that you will vote for wisely. As you have experienced right now, what we are undergoing in the Philippines, I can only sigh with frustration. Okay? So use that power, use that right, or exercise that right wisely, because our future, the future of the next generation of Filipinos, depend on who you will put to power, who will decide the fate of the Filipinos and the rest of the country. Okay? I don't want to sound political, but you know what I mean. And that is why it is important, and it is significant that you become lawyers, because you have the power to change how our society will be in the future, how things should be, and how our resources and our taxpayers' money will be put to use in the right way to help our fellow Filipinos and help our country recover. Okay, to continue, anyway, no, going back to the COMELEC. Okay. So the Commission on Elections, or the COMELEC, is an independent commission established by the Philippine Constitution alongside with the Commission on Civil Service and the Commission on Audit. Okay? And as created by the Philippine Constitution also provided for measures to ensure that the commission will be independent or will remain independent. And these measures include the following. The chairman and the commissioners are given fixed terms without reappointment. Their salary shall not be decreased during their continuance in office. They shall not, during their tenure in office, engage in practice of any profession or in the management of any business or be financially interested, directly or indirectly, in any contract with or in any franchise or privilege granted by the government or any subdivision, agency, or instrumentality thereof, including government or controlled corporations or GOCCs. They can only be removed from office on impeachment for and in conviction of culpable violation of the Constitution, treason, bribery, other high crimes, or graft and corruption. So these are all safeguards which are conducive to, or they tend to create, to bring about a condition or state of mind that will lead the members of the COMELEC to perform their impartiality, their great and important tasks and functions. Okay. So the COMELEC is the principal government agency tasked by the Constitution to enforce and administer all laws and regulations concerning the conduct of regular and special elections. And as I have mentioned, it is a body that is designed to be constitutionally independent from the executive, legislative, and judicial branches of government to ensure the conduct of free, fair, orderly, and honest elections. Okay. As to the powers and functions of the Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, they are provided under Article 9C of the Philippine Constitution. And it is it consists of long provisions, so I don't need to read them to you, and I leave it up to you to read and memorize these provisions, these applicable provisions. Okay. So the powers and functions of the COMELEC can be summarized into administrative, legislative, judicial, or quasi-judicial. Excuse me. Okay. Let's go first to the administrative. Okay. The COMELEC shall enforce and administer all laws and regulations relative to the conduct of an election, plebiscite, initiative, referendum, and recall. So this is found in Section 2, Paragraph 1 of Article 9C of the 1987 Constitution. So next, for the legislative powers and functions or rulemaking power of COMELEC. So it can be found in Article 9 in Section 6 of the 1987 Philippine Constitution, and it states that the Commission and Bank may promulgate its own rules concerning pleadings and practice before it or before any of its offices. Such rules, however, shall not diminish, increase, or modify substantive rights. And last but not the least, the judicial and quasi-judicial functions of the COMELEC. Okay. The COMELEC has exclusive original jurisdiction over all contests relating to the elections, returns, and qualifications of all elective, regional, provincial, and city officials. In other words, the local government officials. Appellate jurisdiction over all contests involving elective municipal officials decided by trial courts of general jurisdiction or involving elective barangay officials decided by trial courts of limited jurisdiction. Under this function and power, also, they can issue summons, subpoena, and warrant of arrest. So this can be found in the Omnibus Election Code, Section 52, Paragraph B. And they can also punish for contempt in exercise of their judicial powers. As to the composition of the COMELEC, so you already know this in constitutional law, but just to have a brief recap, the COMELEC consists of a chairman and 6 commissioners, all of whom have a 7-year term without reappointment. And in all matters pertaining to election, administration, and policy making, the commissioners act as a collegial body. And in election cases and pre-proclamation controversies, however, the commission sits in 2 divisions initially, but decides en banc on motion to reconsider a division decision. Okay, so just to have a review of the functions of the COMELEC or jurisdiction of COMELEC in division and in bank. So in Article 9C, Section 3 of the Philippine Constitution, it states that the COMELEC may sit in bank or in two divisions and shall promulgate its rules of procedure in order to expedite disposition of election cases, including pre-proclamation controversies. All such election cases shall be heard and decided in division, provided that motions for reconsideration of decisions shall be decided by the Commission in bank. Okay. So the general rule is that all election cases either directly filed with the COMELEC or appealed thereto from the BOC or boards of canvassers, and those resolutions which require the exercise of quasi-judicial power, they must first be heard by the COMELEC in division. Then a motion for reconsideration of the final order or decision of COMELEC in division is required, but the same is resolved by the COMELEC in bank, pursuant to the provision of Section 3, Article 9C of the Constitution, which I just stated a while ago. Okay. But there are exceptions to the rule that election cases must first be heard and decided by the COMELEC in division. Okay, and these are the following. When what is involved in the case is purely administrative and not quasi-judicial in nature. Okay, another is cases before a division may only be entertained by the COMELEC in bank when the required number of votes to reach a decision, resolution, order, or ruling is not obtained in the division. However, a 2-to-1 decision rendered by the COMELEC in division is a valid decision, and this was held in the case of CUA versus COMELEC. Another exception is that in cases where the petitioner invoked the jurisdiction of the COMELEC in bank, participated in its proceedings and sought relief therefrom, in which the instance he is stoked to be subsequently questioned the jurisdiction of the COMELEC in bank, as held in the case of Ramirez versus COMELEC. And another one is in the case of Long versus COMELEC, under Section 4 of RA 7166, which provides that the postponement, declaration of failure of election, and the calling of special elections as provided in Sections 5, 6, and 7 of the OEC shall be decided by the Commission sitting in bank by a majority vote of its members. So these petitions for postponement or for declaration of failure of elections come with the original jurisdiction of the COMELEC in bank, as an exception to the general rule that election cases be first filed with and decided by the COMELEC in division. And another example, as held in the case of Filnar versus People, the COMELEC in bank has the power to prosecute election cases, and in the exercise of such prosecutory power, it conducts preliminary investigation, decides whether or not there exists a probable cause, and files the corresponding information in court. The COMELEC in bank exercises such power through its law department or any prosecutor deputized by it to do so. Okay, so now I am bound to discuss with you some of the powers and functions of the law department of the COMELEC, since the materials from the COMELEC were prepared and came from the law department. Okay. Just a run through of the functions of the law department. Maybe in the future you may want to pursue a career in election law and join the Commission on Elections, and then join the law department. At least you have an idea of what it will be like or what you will be doing as an election lawyer or as a lawyer in the Commission on Elections under the law department. Okay, because as an election lawyer, you can also practice in private law firms or as a solo practitioner. Okay. Okay, so the law department plans and coordinates activities connected with the administration and enforcement of all laws relative to the conduct of elections, referenda, and other forms of consultation. The Law Department also prepares pleadings and briefs in cases involving the COMELEC. Also, it represents the COMELEC in cases before the courts and other tribunals unless otherwise provided by pertinent laws and decrees. Also, the Law Department provides legal and technical services to the Commission in the quasi-judicial cases. It reviews legal opinions and interpretation of election and referendum laws made by the regional election directors. It also investigates and/or directs investigations on complaints relative to the conduct of elections and submit recommendations thereon. The Law Department also, next slide, prosecutes on its own or collaborates with government prosecutors in the prosecution of election offenses. Also, it coordinates the activities of law enforcement agencies deputized by the Commission, as well as those agencies performing functions which are related to the conduct of elections. The Law Department also processes and recommends final action on applications of political parties for registration and accreditation. It also prepares rulings and opinions on legal questions involving other departments or offices of the Commission. Also, it studies and recommends pardon or parole of prisoners convicted of violating election laws, rules, and regulations. The Law Department also drafts proposed legislative measures to improve and update Philippine election laws and practices for submission by the Commission to Congress or to the President of the Philippines. It also digests, compiles, and analyzes election and constitutional cases decided by the courts. It also conducts researches on legal queries which are propounded by the Commission, and it also performs other related functions as may be necessary. Okay, as I've mentioned in the beginning, it also has functions with respect to the preliminary investigation by the COMELEC, and as I discussed in one of the exceptions in the general rule a while ago. So, in Section 2 of Article 9C of the Philippine Constitution, it provides, we'll just skip the first part, we'll just go directly to the applicable provision. The Commission on Elections shall exercise the following powers and functions: investigate and, where appropriate, prosecute cases of election laws, including acts or omissions constituting election frauds, offenses, and malpractices. Okay. So this is the last part of our discussion today. We will end it by reviewing, I know already that you know what preliminary investigation means. Okay, so this will be the last part before we end this discussion, and next week we will again have the next presentation on election offenses. Okay, so as a review, preliminary investigation is an inquiry or proceeding to determine whether there is sufficient ground to engender a well-founded belief that a crime has been committed and the respondent is probably guilty thereof and should be held for trial. Okay. Finding of probable cause, in other words. Okay. With that, thank you very much for listening. Please do your own readings, and we'll post again for the next lecture next week. So thank you very much, and always remember to glorify God with a grateful heart. Study well. Take care.
Be kind and be a blessing to others. We are on the road to 600. So please like, subscribe, share, and follow. Thank you very much. This is Attorney Angel, and I'm your legal angel.